Sean is so excited to film, guys. Right, babe? You look really excited.
This is where I wanna be, nah, nah, nah. Never ever gonna leave, nah, nah, nah. You ain't gonna get it from me. I'm like, nah, 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 nah.
This was one of our most requested videos. I didn't really warn him on what we're going to be talking about, and he's not really like, his favorite place is not necessarily to be, I'm about to break the chair, on camera. So people want to know our story, like I guess how we met and all that. I don't know if you want to like start telling them.
I think we have the best story. We met at a very young age. We were both children when we met. I think I was 17, she was 15. We met in a McDonald's parking lot.
So classy, so classy.
We would park at McDonald's, 7-Eleven, Dunkin' Donuts. You just park and just sit in your friend's car and just
play loud music, and you had to have subwoofers in your car. This is a Jersey thing, so only Jersey people understand that. Dunkin' Donuts, you never actually got coffee, you just sat in the parking lot. So that's where we met.
Being so young, we were both so like immature. We both like really had no idea.
Speak for yourself.
Like what we were doing, like what we wanted. You know what you were like doing back then?
I mean, more than you, I feel like. We only dated from like, in high school years, this seemed like an eternity, but we only dated from like January to like
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, it was barely even 5 months. Okay, I'm 15, and every summer I would go to Greece with Yaya, my grandma, which was amazing. And then what did you do? You were the first guy that ever dumped me, and the only guy that's ever dumped me. If any of my ex-boyfriends are watching, I'm sorry I broke your heart, but not really. He went off the deep end. He was a good guy. Like, he was like the nice boy. That's why I was like into him. And he was a hard worker. I was always very into that. You should tell him about our first kiss. You had a little game. Oh, tell him the story about when you ran the light. Yeah, tell that. You have to tell them.
Come on, you can tell them.
Okay, so we were like on our like first date, and I didn't really understand like his profession. I was 15 years old, but like he had this crappy car. His car was a POS.
A 92 Ford Explorer. Or no AC.
It had a duct tape around the steering wheel, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a work truck.
So started from the bottom, now we're here. Like, I was not with him, like all his other hood rats after we broke up that went with him, because he had like a nice Jeep and like PlayStation in it. They were all like, oh, Remy. Oh yeah, his nickname was Remy for Remfer. And I would never call him that. Everyone else called him Remy. I would only call him Sean. So anyway, our first date, he would have to change tires on the side of like 287. Our dates were literally him just working for AAA for his dad's business. And we're sweating our asses off, remember? Always. And he was trying to impress me on our first date. And so we were on, what was the road?
Park Avenue.
Park Avenue in
Florham Park.
So there was a cop sitting there like doing the whatever the thing's called, and he floors it at a red light. Like, I'm telling you, we're like sitting at the light, he sees the cop and just goes through it. And at this time I was more of a baddie than you were. Like, I was the cool girl, he was kind of dorky. We went to rival high schools. We should probably tell them that.
You're like all over the place.
I know.
Right now.
That,
like,
I mean,
I'm trying to like keep up with where you're going or trying to go.
Anyway, so he floors it through the red light. I'm like, freaking out, and then telling your side of it.
I got pulled over. The guy goes, what are you doing, Sean? Like, what are you, an idiot?
And I'm like, how does he know your name?
Because my dad used to be a cop in the town. And, you know, we worked with the cops all the time, so it was just kind of like a good relationship that we had that never really got in trouble.
Basically, they were like above the law, talk about conspiracy theories. I mean,
a little kick in the ass and go home.
so that was interesting. I always remember that day. Tell them our first kiss. You had like a little bit of game. Do you remember our first kiss?
I asked you what your lip gloss tasted like.
I'm 34. Who remembers those like lip glosses that you would squeeze out, and they had like fragrance in them? They probably will give you cancer for sure. And some of them tasted like strawberry, and they had like chocolate. Oh, that's the one when you know you're gonna be making out with your boyfriend you put on. But we were sitting at, I think, another light. You were always doing calls. That's all of our dates were in his crappy truck. But anyway, I'm putting it on, and he, mind you, he's like dorky, and he also stuttered a lot. And somehow game came. I didn't know where it came from, and he's like, let me see that, can I smell it? And I was like, what? And then he just kissed me. Oh my goodness. I should probably put the disclaimer out that God didn't save us until after Yanni was born. So like, sons, if you're watching this, you're not allowed to make out in your car when you're 15.
I guess after that, I guess I became a bad kid. One of my best friends died in a drinking and driving accident.
And what equals a bad kid?
Drugs, drinking, staying out late, doing things I shouldn't have done.
Then what?
So we had a break for like a year and a half, 2 years, a year.
Which is like eternity in high school.
And then,
Oh, by the way, he got a really nice car after we broke up. And all the sluts liked him. If you're watching this, hey. Give them what they want. Give them what they want. They want the tea, baby. They want the real tea. Give it to them.
So deep down inside, the whole time we weren't together, I was always thinking like, damn, I had something really good.
Oh, tell them what you told me when we first dated. How...
I wish I met you when I was older so we could have just gotten married. I wish I didn't meet you so young.
I can't believe you said that to me when you were 17. Talk about God, right? So
the
now
whole
I'm like
time-
18 or 19.
Yeah. So I was trying to do better for myself. I was trying to like focus and like be better and do better. And I always wanted you back. So one day, I remember I was driving down Route 10 in Livingston, going around a circle. And I was just, I don't know why, thinking about you in the back of my friend's car. And I texted you like, hey, I'm really sorry, I miss you. I don't know what I said to her exactly. I'm sure you remember.
Of course I remember, because you were the only guy that ever dumped me. I deleted his number out of my phone as if I could ever forget it. But it was like psychological for me.
So I texted her that night, and then the next day we were back together. But I still wasn't good then. I was trying to get better. We got back together. I think we were together for a few more months. And then the opportunity arose for us to move to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And we got to...
I think we were together like a year before we came here. I wouldn't have moved down here like in a month.
We opened up a new chapter and started our life together.
I was 19 when we moved to South Carolina, which was one of the best things that we ever did, because as much as I loved where I grew up and I love like what it made us, like no one works as hard as people from the Northeast. Hashtag sorry.
We
sorry.
moved here before it was cool to move here.
We are innovators, leaders. We are so grateful that we moved here when we did. Obviously, when we came here, we were super young, super naive. I mean, a lot of my credits from nursing school didn't even transfer over. I mean, if you fast forward, you were 21. By 24, we were married and had Yanni. I always wanted to be a mom. Like a lot of people find their worth maybe more so in work or being a wife. But Sean and I kind of had this like understanding, which again was God's grace in our life, that I was going to be mama if he could help it. And so I just started popping out babies over and over again. My 20s, where most people are like, I don't know, what are they, like normal people do in their 20s. But I had 3 kids by the time I was 26. So that's our story. God saved you.
It was like 6 months after Yanni.
Yeah, so if you guys are following along our videos, I tell you my story of the well visits with our first son. And when I went through all that, I had the Holy Spirit in me and I was saved, but Sean was not. And it's so interesting, and I'm sure a lot of y'all can relate to this, is when you pray and then when God answers a prayer, you almost like don't believe it. So I would pray, I would take Yanni to church by myself at like 23 years old, and he would stay home and play Xbox. It was really sexy.
I think when God saved me, it was nothing short of like a miracle. I was addicted to like opiates and cigarettes, and just one day just praying. Because I used to come home and like not be focused and just like read my Bible in the bathtub and like cry.
I remember that.
And I was just praying. One day, when God actually answered those prayers for me, it was just very special to be able to like have the strength to be able to just like to put all that away and just to just be like the person he called me to be was just nothing short of a miracle. I'm very thankful for God in that area. I mean, I've been to rehab, I tried Chantix, all like the things like to stop all that stuff, and like nothing worked, nothing did it for me. To be able to actually like pray and like have God give me the strength to just grow and just be able to conquer that was just a very special thing.
Which is a daily process, I think, of putting it to death for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah.
Which we want to share a lot more of our story recently, but we're gonna wait a little longer. But Sean has a huge, I think, a call on his life to talk to y'all a lot more about his story, even recently as a Christian husband, and struggles that people don't talk about, like pornography or just even drinking alcohol when you're a Christian man and an adult. So we have more to unpack, I think, in that, but it's not gonna be happening on this episode. So he comes home from work one day and he's like, I quit smoking. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And that's what I was talking about, how we pray for something and then when God actually answers the prayer, which it reminds me of the Bible verse where you pray and you don't believe, like, how dare I, but I'm a sinner. And it was literally instantaneous. When God saved me, I wasn't like a prostitute on drugs. So like people noticed that I was changing, but for you, it was like you went from black to white. So people were like, what the heck happened to him? And it was God. We kind of had like a honeymoon period, I think, because I got pregnant right away when God saved you with Marco. Some of the sweetest years. I remember like that birth of Mark, even though it was very traumatic, like he was amazing, and I didn't have that with our first one, so it was good. A lot of healing happened in that period of our life. So I'm not here to tell you our testimony of God, which we can obviously make a video out of that one day, but our story is one of those stories I think that people don't believe exists anymore. Obviously, God was not residing in our lives when we met, but he was working through all that. I mean, I don't know how else you would have told me at 15 years old, I wish I had met you when we were older. Like, that's God.
I think that's a good start to our story. I think that's enough for today.
That's it?
I'll never be another piece in your recipe for social supremacy. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now.